today I'm giving you just the gist of, I'm not quite sure how to do an intro for this one because anywhere you kind of try to break it down, it ends up being a long speech. So I will just say that I'm giving you just the gist of the biggest Ponzi scheme in history. Today I'm giving you just the gist of Bernie Madoff.
Oh, my God, this is huge. I thought when you said monologue, you were going to tell me your year 12 drama piece. Just do your monologue.
Nominated for on stage, but anyway, whatever.
I don't want to talk about it.
Hello and welcome to Just the Gist, the show where I, Rosie Borderland, give you just the gist of stuff about anything and everything. Cool stories, interesting facts, just the stuff that will make you sound entertaining to your friends at a dinner party, and only the gist of what you need to know, because who can be bothered listening forever? Joining me today is the excellent, wonderful Sammy Peterson. Hello.
Hello, Rosie. And also, I would listen forever. Thank you so much.
Stop it. You're looking very rugged up. Is it cold in Melbourne?
I am. It is freezing. Imagine if I said no, it's boiling. No, I've got my tea cozy on my head, which I call my beanie, and I am rugged up with my big coat on. It is freezing in Melbourne at the moment.
Is it really?
Yeah, and I just don't do anything. I just sit here it feels like I haven't left bed. That's always the vibe I'm going for.
It doesn't have to be freezing for me to not leave bed.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I sympathise, I suppose. But
Thank you so much.
Well, yeah. How much do you know about old Bernie Madoff?
I obviously know. I know the name, and I have watched one documentary a while ago about Bernie. But a lot escapes me about Bernie. I know his company. I know that he defrauded a lot of people.
Yes,
but I don't know the full extent.
A lot of people.
Less than just the gist.
Yeah,
I guess.
And I mean that's why it's hard for me to do like a little intro on this one that sort of succinctly like puts it in a little thing before we start, because it's like all financy stuff and stock exchange stuff. And obviously this is just the gist and it's me, so I'm not going to make it too complicated. There's no assumed knowledge, but like it's just kind of it's this when you go into stuff about Ponzi schemes. We do not live like these kind of rich people. So to us, it's all just
Speak
so
for yourself.
bizarre.
I'm in a tea cozy right now.
Yeah.
But I do. No, I agree. There's so much in it. It's even wild to think about the stock exchange for us sometimes, or, all of this stuff. It is so.
These amounts of money are just kind of abstract. Although the thing you find with Bernie Madoff, and I think it's what a lot of people don't know, is that, particularly in 2008 when the financial crisis happened, and that's when his whole firm kind of blew up, everyone back then was kind of like, oh, well, geez, who cares? It's just rich people losing 1 billion of their 6 billion or whatever. But there were a lot of just everyday people with their money tied up in Bernie Madoff that it affected. And it just, I thought to do this one this week because this is a Rosie's version, because this was one of the first episodes I ever did of Just the Gist, actually. But I thought to do it this week because there's been that story in the news about an Australian super fund that was invested with some company that's collapsed, and now like everybody's lost their super whose super was with this company. You know what I mean? And it's like, you're not making those decisions. You just have a super fund, and the super fund is like, we invested over there, and you're like, I don't know, whatever. And then they're like, oh, sorry, we lost it. It's like, what?
Yeah, I know. Your money should just be working for you.
I
That's
know.
what
The
I've
way
heard.
money works at this level, I don't understand it. I mean, I'm drinking a sugar-free Fanta right now. Like, I'm not worth billions. You know what I mean?
But also you are sitting on a bunch of cash as you're saying that, but drinking your Fanta. But
absolutely.
It also is wild to me, the Bernie story, because I just call him Birdie. We're friends. But Bernie and I go way back. I kind of think it's so weird that Martha Stewart got held to such I don't know, she was put on this, she was kind of put on the world scale as someone who did a bad thing. But obviously in the scheme of things, what Bernie did, which we'll go into, is so much more.
Yeah.
It's so much worse, and they just wanted to use Martha as kind of a face of
she's a lady. I mean,
she's a lady,
she's a lady and she's a rich lady, which people don't like. I do also think I've got to do just the gist on that. That's on my list, actually, her whole insider trading thing. I'm pretty sure she did do some insider trading.
Yeah.
But it was small. It was insider
Fun
trading
stuff.
light.
Yeah, it was. It was.
You know what I mean?
LITE.
And even when I hear about what she did and about how a lot of this stuff works, I'm like, God, I'm lucky I'm not in that industry, because I'm like, isn't that just how it works? Like, essentially, she had some stock in a company and then someone
Tipped her off.
said to her, oh, like, if I were you, I'd sell that stock. And she was like, okay. I'm like, how else do people find out when to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Someone
It's
tells
all-
them to.
I mean, I'll explain it a little, but it's like, I was like, I don't see how that's not just how what investing is. But anyway, we'll get into
or
it.
as Martha would say, I don't think that's any of your
I don't
business.
think
She
that's
said
any of
that
your
quite
business.
a lot.
Yeah. And then,
She's so cool.
And then march off in her prison poncho. Okay, here we go. Just the gist of Bernie Madoff and the biggest Ponzi scheme in history.
Wow.
I mean, they say the fraud was about $68.5 billion, but that was kind of just the money that was on the books at the time that was owed to people. But over the years of his investment fund, hundreds of billions of dollars came and went from his fund. So it's way huger than what it's like officially.
Yeah.
So-
Which is insane, that kind of money you can't even really think about anyway, like, you know,
Yeah, well,
personally
what's-
speaking. But
What's that fact? Because Elon Musk got named a trillionaire a couple weeks ago or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
The money's just abstract. None of it's real. But they were saying on the news, I saw like you would have to spend like $1 million every hour for the next like 30 years or something crazy to ever even spend that much money. Like, I'm totally paraphrasing the maths on that. I can't be bothered stopping to get a calculator. But you know what I mean? It's it's just this amount of money that you're like, it's not even
it's made up.
that feels made up. So
Yeah.
anyway, here we go.
Yeah.
Bernie Madoff, he was born in Queens in New York in 1938. He had pretty humble, middle-class sort of upbringing. His dad was a plumber. His dad eventually became a stockbroker, although not a very successful one, more just like a hustling kind of, you know, penny stock kind of guy, like at the start of The Wolf of Wall Street, that kind of one.
Oh, yeah.
Bernie,
Yelling at lots of people with a book.
Yeah. Bernie married his high school sweetheart, a girl called Ruth, in 1959 when he was 21, and she was like a couple years younger than him. They started dating when she was 15 and got married like a couple years later. But that's what you did back then.
Yeah,
If you weren't
of course.
married by the time you were 17, you were a failure, you know, in the 70s.
That's right. That's right.
So they both went to university. And in 1960, he started his company called Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities. I'm just calling it Madoff Investments because that's just like, who can be bothered?
It's very clunky.
Bernie started with $5,000 that he had saved working as a lifeguard at the local pool and an extra $50,000 from his father-in-law. So Ruth's dad gave him $50,000 to help him out. His father-in-law also referred a bunch of friends and family to him as like his first clients. And so he's kind of off and running. And so I want to just like stop here now because I always say just the gist is no assumed knowledge. Mm-hmm. So we're just going to get a little bit of an understanding of investment banking. Okay?
Sure, I'd love to. Mm-hmm.
Let me walk you through this. And this is, again, just the gist. And it's my understanding of this thing. So if you're a finance person listening and you want to throw something, too bad, too sad, call me on the burger phone, complain.
Don't at me.
Hello
Don't
at
at me, though.
justthegist.com.au. So the stock market is basically big companies that are called public companies, and they're called public companies because the general public, so any people, you and me, are allowed to invest money in that company. And the reason companies do this, it's because it's a way for them to make money, to grow or expand. They do that by going public on the stock market. So that means any member of the public can buy a portion of that company, a little share, and the company uses that money to hopefully become a more successful company. And so if the company does become more successful and it becomes worth more money, then your little share that you bought also becomes worth more money. But investing in this way is a risk because if the company does badly and ends up worth less money, then your share will become worth way less money. So that's why the stock market is a risk.
Yeah.
Are we clear so far?
We're clear so far. It is interesting in films when you see them like they're going public, and it's always such a big thing when it's like especially I think Uber did that, the film about Uber, and it is such an interesting thing when you see them going public, and they're all so excited about it.
Because a lot of startups, and this is why Elon Musk became a trillionaire the other week, because a lot of startups, so places like Tesla or SpaceX or Uber or stuff like Facebook even, the earlier employees who work there when it's first like starting, the company's still private and they don't have enough money to pay you a lot. So they say, look, we're not paying you very much, but we'll give you 5% stock in this company so that if it does get really successful one day and we go public, then if we go public and we're worth, $100 million, you get 5% of $100 million. So that's why they all get so excited when their companies finally go public, because they've been working for nothing for ages with this stock on the understanding that hopefully one day my stock will pay off. And that's why Elon had all this stock in SpaceX, and when it finally went public the other week, his stock was worth $1 trillion.
Oh, yeah. And wild as well that Bernie's stepdad put in $50,000 as well.
Yeah.
So he's probably doing some he's probably hoping that it will go public one day as well.
So I'll use Apple as an example here to sort of explain it. Explain how this stuff works and explain what Bernie was doing for people. So when Apple computers went public in 1980, and I'm just making up these numbers, but just for example's sake, let's say you could buy one share of Apple stock for $1 in 1980. People don't generally buy one, they buy a bunch. But back when Apple first went public, let's say there's two people. There's what are their names? Honey Boo Boo and Gypsy Rose, right? Honey Boo Boo and Gypsy Rose, they each buy $100 worth of shares of Apple stock. And at that time, the company's worth $1 million. And 5 years later, Apple's doing really well and the company doubles in value, so it becomes worth $2 million. So that means that Honey Boo Boo's shares and Gypsy Rose's shares also double, so they're now worth $200. And so that's where you could sell your shares, because you're like, whoa, I've doubled my money. That's awesome. I'm going to sell my shares and I'll keep this $200. But if Apple's doing really well, you're like, well, actually, I'll keep my shares because maybe they'll end up worth more money. You're hoping the company will go up in value even more. So Gypsy Rose and Honey Boo Boo both keep their shares in Apple, but then, disaster, Microsoft makes a better computer than Apple one year. So the value of Apple drops by a quarter. So Apple drops from being worth $2 million to $1.5 million. So Honey Boo Boo and Gypsy Rose's shares go from being worth $200 to $150. And here's where Gypsy Rose freaks out. And she's like, damn, I should have sold my shares when they were worth $200. But hey, if I sell now, at least I've made $50 because I initially invested $100. So rather than risking the Apple stock losing any more value, Gypsy Rose cashes out, gets $150, which means she made $50. Honey Boo Boo, though, decides to keep her shares in Apple. She's like, no, I'm going to risk it.
She believes in Apple.
Yeah, I'm going to risk it. She's like, company values go up and down, and next year maybe Apple could do something amazing. The stock will go up again. So Honey Boo Boo's like, I'm going to risk it. Next year, Apple releases the iPod. Apple's shares shoot up. Its value goes up. It goes from being worth $1.5 million to $1.5 billion. That means Honey Boo Boo's stock worth $150 is now worth $150,000. So Honey Boo Boo cashes out her stock straight away and gets $150,000. Both her and Gypsy Rose had initially invested $100. So it's all risk and reward.
Yeah.
It's just risk and reward.
Honey Boo Boo always had the business acumen. I've always said that about Honey Boo Boo. And Gypsy Rose, not so sure at the moment.
At the moment, not so sure where she's at. But I mean,
that is interesting. I understand. Yeah. You kind of understand why people do risk it a lot of the time.
Risk it,
and go, well, I've still made money. So if I stay in here a little bit longer, it'll increase in value, hopefully. And
the market fluctuates. So even if your shares drop a little, it's like, don't cash out now because they could rise again. It's all it's like if you want a higher return, it's probably a higher risk. Like there are some companies where, the potential return on your investment's like 10%, but it's also really a big chance that you won't get that. And there are other
Yeah.
companies where, you know, the return on your investment might be like 1% a year, but it's like, so that's not much risk, but it's also not much profit.
Yeah, you can just
know?
let it sit there and see what happens. Buy
Exactly.
low, sell high.
I mean, yeah, exactly. My whole knowledge of the stock market is just people in movies going like, sell, Barry, sell. Like, I don't,
Yeah,
you know
I know
what I mean? I don't know.
And Dave Hughes yelling at people recently, I
exactly.
think, has been the other how you learn about the stock market is being yelled at by a comedian.
By Dave Hughes. So this is kind of like as simply as I like writing that down helped me explain it. So I thought it helped me understand it. So hopefully
I love
you
that.
two now understand investing in the stock market thanks to Rosie.
Invest in JTG.
Yeah, exactly. So people generally don't do this kind of thing themselves, though. I mean, some people do. Some people get online or whatever and do their own investing. But generally you would go to like a finance person, a stockbroker, an investment banker, a financial advisor, somebody who knows how the kind of stock market works, and you give them your money, and for a fee they invest it for you the best way they think it should be invested, and you trust them to do that. And then they also get usually like a percentage of the profit if they make you money. I mean, but the risk is you could lose money, but it's usually kind of a long-term thing. You don't invest in something hoping to get money a month later. People who generally invest in things have a portfolio and like they're hoping it will grow over like 10 years or something.
Yeah. And they have they get a commission on it, don't they? So that's what they get.
Yeah, pretty much.
Basically, if you're earning that much, it's pretty much.
So, these kind of people who do investment bankers, they want your money to do well because then they get more money. So they're not trying to screw you over or anything, unless you're Bernie Madoff. But I mean, that was Bernie Madoff's job. He was an investment banker. He started this investment firm where people gave him their money and he invested it for them. And he was, by all appearances, very, very good at investing. He started with that $50,000 his father-in-law gave him, and then other family and friends started investing with him, and he started making them really good returns on the money they invested. So then his investment firm grew, and he was also super on top of computer trends as they came out over the 70s and 80s, because his brother was a computer genius. And so his brother was sort of the nerd behind the scenes, figuring out smart computer programs that could predict market trends. So rather than just two dudes reading the newspaper and going off vibes, because I'm pretty sure that's how people predict stocks. Or with Martha Stewart, they get insider information. So Bernie's firm was kind of we have this computer program and it's all science and algorithms and technology, and we can predict what stocks and companies are going to do well, and that's why we get such high returns. And, this was early enough that people were ooh, computers. So the technology that Bernie and his brother kind of develop eventually becomes the NASDAQ. It does actually work. And the NASDAQ is basically one of the most famous stock exchange markets in the world, along with the New York Stock Exchange. So he did know what he was doing. Bernie knew what he was doing. And judging by the massive returns he was getting for clients, he was very good at it. And as the investment company grew and grew and grew, he became really highly respected, considered one of the titans and experts of the finance world. By the 90s and early 2000s, he was really considered a legend of Wall Street.
And it was big people that went for him as well, people with big portfolios.
Yeah,
he had big people.
I mean, everybody wanted to invest with Bernie because he gave his clients astronomical returns. You could go to another investment firm and give them $1 million, and maybe eventually you'd get $1.7 million back. But if you gave Bernie $1 million, he'd basically guarantee you'd get $10 million back.
Nuts.
But it was hard to get in with Bernie. So he was very selective about what clients he would take on, he said. And that exclusivity made people even more desperate to work with him. He was quite smart. He created this scarcity kind of vibe around it.
Yeah.
He would make you more money than you could ever dream of, but he only does it for a select few. You're very lucky to get in with Bernie. And also he put rules around it like don't talk to other people about the returns you're getting. Don't talk to other people about what's on your statements or else you're out of the fund. I won't work with you anymore. So he stopped people from talking to each other that way. I mean, it was, of course, discovered later that like he took on way more people than – he took everyone. He would take anyone. He didn't care.
But he'd make you wait.
Oh, yeah. Like he did work with big billion-dollar companies and clients who were investing huge amounts of money. But he would also – and it's actually quite horrible. Like he'd take his secretary's parents' $500,000 retirement and say, I'll invest it. Or like a cleaner at his office would get like a $50,000 inheritance and he'd be like, oh, give it to me. I'll take care of it. Like he took – he was a bit psycho in that way.
Yes.
So it gets to a point where in the 2000s, when it comes time close to his arrest, he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars personally. He and his wife, Ruth, live in just this massive like penthouse. You know, they're apartments, but they're like mansion apartments. You've got like 5 floors of the, one of those on the Upper East Side.
The dream.
The dream. His 2 sons, Mark and Andrew, after they went to university, they started working for the company. So they're also working at the company. They're also both multimillionaires. The company itself is worth like almost $1 billion. It's like huge, living the best life ever, but it's all a lie. It's a Ponzi scheme, and it had been for a very long time. Some people say since the beginning.
Wow.
And because, again, this is just the gist, I'm going to give you a brief interlude and tell you what a Ponzi scheme is. A Ponzi scheme is pretty simple. It's named after a famous con artist called Charles Ponzi. I love that it's just named after a guy.
I did too. I was shocked when I heard that for the first time because you didn't think that something like that would be named after someone.
I know. So basically a Ponzi scheme is just where you take people's money and tell them you're investing it, but then you just keep it. And you tell them their money is growing in value, but really you're just spending it. And if any of the people who've invested money with you ask to cash out their money, you just get new people to invest and you take their money and you give it to the people asking for their money. So it's basically like people lend you money and then you borrow money from new people to pay back those people, and then you borrow money from newer people to pay back those people, and it just goes on and on and on and on. Like it is actually such a simple scam. A Ponzi scheme is such a simple scam. It's just taking money from one person, giving it to another person, and then taking money from the next person, giving it to the next person in the line. It's just that's all it is.
This is what like the Tinder swindler did. Like dud. I was about to say dud, but he is a dud. Yeah. But he did that. Like he would just scam someone, take their money, use it on the next person, and then their money is going to the next person. It is such a simple thing.
It's just so simple. It's crazy to me that it got to the billions upon billions that it did with Bernie Madoff. Like, so he starts the investment firm in 1960. He says that he didn't start doing anything dodgy until 1991. And he said later it was only because he made some bad investments and he lost a bunch of his clients' money, and he panicked when he didn't have money to give back to some clients who were asking. So he dipped into some other clients' money to give to those clients, and then he had to dip into some other clients' money to cover the money he'd taken from those clients. And then he's like, it snowballed from there, and before you know it, you've stolen $100 billion. So,
oh my God. You can kind of see like with the, the global financial crisis and things, when people go to the bank to get money out and go, I want all of my money right now. And they're like, it's not here. Like, it doesn't exist.
That's like literally how this came to a head.
Yeah. Wow.
So, Bernie has said that he was just trying to fix a mistake and then he just got in too deep, like whoopsie. But people who worked for him have said that they remember dodgy dealings happening at the company as far back as the very beginning.
Oh, wow.
But whenever it started, basically, at some point, Bernie Madoff started taking people's money under the understanding that he would invest it for them, but he wouldn't invest it. He would just put it all into one account, and then he would give people fake statements showing how well their investments were doing. He basically uses this one account for everything. Like all the money goes into it. He used it to, run the company, pay employees. He dipped into it personally. Like when other clients wanted to cash out some money, he dipped into that account for that. I mean, people didn't want to cash out their money very often because, like I explained before, investing is a thing that's a long-term thing. Like you trust the person you've got your money with and they're an expert and they say to you, don't worry about things fluctuating. It's going to keep growing. And the thing with Bernie was things rarely fluctuated. They would get these statements where their money was just growing and growing and growing and growing. And so that's how he got away with it for so long, because he'd take these huge amounts of money from people, give them these quarterly statements showing their money always increasing. And so there was an attitude of like, well, why would you ever cash your money out? Like if you leave it with me, you'll get even more. So mostly people wanted to keep it in there with him because the second they took it out, they'd have their $10 million or whatever. But if they kept it with him, it would end up $30 million. So people are happy just getting these statements, telling them how much money he's making for them. And they plan to just let it grow and then, cash it out when they needed to retire or like buy their kids a house or pay for college or something like that. I mean, it's just not really amounts of money that you and I really understand.
No, I know.
It's crazy to me that these people are so even like there are people who are so wealthy they can just keep $5 million just
they just give it to someone else. Just work on that.
But the way life goes. And like I said, there were people with less money investing. Like sometimes people would want to cash out at least some of their money if they needed something. Like, sometimes someone would say, okay, I gave you $1 million and the statements you've been giving me say that $1 million is now $10 million. So I'd like to cash out $5 million of that to buy my daughter a house. And he'd always try to talk them out of it. He'd always be like, look, it's better to do it this way. Like the interest on a loan is less than the money you'd be making here. He'd always like try and like talk them out of it with all this like complicated like financial math. But like honestly, he wouldn't deny people because then he'd seem dodgy. So if people wanted to cash out money, he would cash them out. So he would pay that person that $5 million. And because he had so many people investing all the time, like or old clients that like he had new people investing or old clients that he'd convinced to invest more. Like he'd always be going back to the super rich people going, oh, I know you've given me 20 million already, but there's this amazing opportunity. And if you give me 10 million more, like, you'll get. And so he's a really good salesperson. So he's always got money coming in. And
that's how a good Ponzi scheme works.
Exactly.
Like you just have to, if you are paying people to kind of settle their nerves, then they're more likely to invest more.
They believe it, and it's like, but imagine the pressure because he would just constantly have to be hustling to get more money coming in. Like,
we're not feeling for Bernie just here, but we are saying that's a lot of stress for Rosie or I, and we don't want any part of this investment.
I know I can't even imagine the pit of anxiety. But I mean, some people have said he's a psychopath, so maybe he just didn't even feel it. But I mean, if anybody ever did need to cash out money, he would just dip into the bank account. There's this one bank account, and he would give it to them. I mean, because that's the essence of a Ponzi scheme. He's not growing any money through investing. He's just recruiting more people to give him more money, and then he just dips into that money if anybody ever asks. It really is at its core a very primitive scam. And the way he pulled it off is also quite shockingly simple and primitive. Like it is basically smoke and mirrors and like Photoshop or like whatever the 80s version of like forging a document was before Photoshop, like putting a blank piece of paper over a number and typing a new number on it and then photocopying it. Like it's literally that is how they're doing it. So
arts and crafts, like getting a license when you're like under 18 in Australia and you're like wanting to go somewhere. That's pretty much all it is.
It's kind of all it is. And I mean, like I said, he started in the 60s. So I think it probably was easier when it was all paper documents. But he has this computer genius brother who, as technology gets better, his brother's at the forefront of that, coming up with programs to also make all these fake programs as well.
Wow.
So like even when it got – because, he didn't get arrested till 2009 2009 or at the end of 2008. So even it got to the point where everything was run online and on computers or whatever. He had people log into the special Madoff database, and it was a completely fake stock exchange.
Wow.
Like it was almost as much work went into making it all fake as if he could have just been doing actual investing.
Yeah.
Like I always say
he's just not very good
when
at
it comes down to Belle Gibson and Elizabeth Holmes and Anna Delvey, I'm like, if you guys just spent as much time working as hard on actually doing the job as you do on creating the scam, you might actually do the job well.
Yeah, absolutely. Anna Delvey should have got some elocution lessons probably. Just anything really.
Anything.
But there's a great Steve Martin comedy routine where he talks about banks, just how ridiculous they are, and they always have a weird name, and you would never trust a guy called Dave's Bank. He just puts money in your pocket here, and he remembers that your money's in his pocket here, and your money's over there. That's with John, and that is it. When you actually do break it down like that, and what a Ponzi scheme actually is, it's actually not that wild.
No, it's
if you
so
get a
simple.
name and you build it up, which is why people fell for it.
I remember in my early years of working at Mamma Mia, I wrote this column that went quite viral where my friend Jamila, who was my editor at the time and studied economics at university, explained money to me because I thought that there was a physical dollar for every dollar. And she's like, no, there's not. And then she started explaining a run on the bank. She's like, if everybody went to the bank and wanted to get their money out, they wouldn't have enough physical money to give to everybody. And I was like, but how is that possible? I don't understand. When I transfer money from my account to another account, $20 goes from my account to that account. And she's like, yeah, in theory it does. And I was like, so are you telling me money's just a concept? And she's like, basically, it is just a concept that we all have agreed this thing is $1 and
that's what currency is.
After everything went online and everything went cashless, no, there is not enough physical money in the world to cover all the money. Everything could fall apart in an instant. And I was just like, what?
Breaks your brain.
Yeah, it does break your brain. So that's why I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. But I mean, and essentially, this whole thing was really simple the way they pulled this off. So the Madoff investment company, there were two sides to it. There was the legitimate investing side of the company, and that was Bernie's sons, Mark and Andrew. They were in charge of that. And so they did all legitimate stock trading and investing. Although I will say they weren't very good at it because apparently Bernie was having to top up all their accounts all the time because they were terrible at investing for their legitimate clients. So anyway, but there was this legitimate side of the company where Mark and Andrew actually did investing and trading of stocks. Then there was the dodgy Ponzi scheme side of the business. And Bernie had that part of the business set up on an entirely different floor of the office building they were in. So not even his sons, Mark and Andrew, knew about this secret floor. Not even the highest level people in the company were allowed in this secret floor. It was just a secret floor in this office building, and it was completely dedicated to making all the false documents to send to clients and all the false statements and running all the false computer programs to convince all these people that their investments were growing.
I remember this bit in the documentary actually. I think there's a Netflix documentary, but don't listen to just the gist of it first. But it was really interesting to see the second floor because it was like he was just going, well, it's a whole separate operation.
Yeah.
And only select people knew about that.
Even the people he hired to work on the secret floor were very different to the Ivy League, old money, respectable, rich people he hired for the legitimate floor. On the secret floor, there were people who'd basically been with Bernie for years, a lot of them since the 60s and 70s. He trusted them implicitly, but he also considered them tacky criminals. They all kind of drove in from New Jersey. One of them had started out his driver and he'd promoted him. These are people that Bernie treats well, pays more than they would ever get paid in other jobs that they'd probably be doing. So they're 100% loyal to him, and they're also not the kind of people who care about doing this kind of dodgy stuff. So this floor was led by Bernie's sort of dodgy right-hand man, a guy called Frank Di Pasquale. Mm-hmm. And he is just that kind of brash Italian. He seems like a cast member from The Sopranos. Like he's just
the name sounds dodgy too.
Yeah, this floor is basically, it all just feels like mafia people from The Sopranos.
Yes.
And so basically they would look at stocks, like look at the actual stock information. They would look at stocks and trades and companies that had performed well the day before, and then they would create investment statements based on those well-performing stocks, because they're like
backdating them.
Yeah, people will double-check their like not everybody will, but some people will double-check their statements that you send them. So if you say, oh, you know, on this day we did X with your money and it went up by 2%, if those people go and look up that day in trading, they see that went up 2% because you checked it. You checked it, right?
Yes.
So they're doing stuff like that. It needs to look real. And it also needs to look real to the authorities as well. Like the people who monitor investment businesses like this, I think in Australia it's called ASIC. In the US it's called the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. They're just like the police for investment banking. And so Bernie's dodgy staff put a lot of work into making all of these statements and all of the information on their computer programs look really legit. So people would be handing money over to the company. He obviously wasn't investing any of it. He was just putting it into this one account. But to make you think he was investing it, his dodgy staffers on the secret floor were putting so much work into making all these fake statements. And it was all just made up in the most primitive way. Like this is a $65 billion Ponzi scheme, although people say hundreds of billions of dollars more. And it all just came down to like people printing out like fake pieces of paper. It's just...
Which is so simple.
And so they got away with it for so long for a few reasons. Probably the biggest reason is the lack of regulation in the industry was part of why they weren't caught, and part of why you never really see any high-level financial people getting in trouble for anything. They say one of the big issues with the like sort of police and like investigators that they recruit into finance, like policing all this finance stuff, is anybody who's smart enough to be an investigator of this stuff will just go and work in it and make money.
Right.
Like if you're smart enough to be investigating it, why are you getting paid $80,000 a year when you can?
Yeah,
so they find it very hard to recruit people at the level like of understanding of it all that can do it, because they just go work there. And also Bernie did hire because they'd get investigated all the time. Like major companies are getting audited all the time. People come in or need to look at your books or whatever. He'd hire them. He'd just hire people like out from the SEC and stuff. So there's a big problem in that industry in general. Yeah. But also it's just like apparently the regulation was so bad. Like Bernie recalled this one example of an agent nearly catching him. Like it was an audit it was like a surprise audit, which happens occasionally. And this auditing agent asked Bernie for his SEC account number because he's like, oh, I just need to double check and confirm all the stocks and trades that you've shown me here on your systems and in your statements. I need to put that into the SEC website and check it there, because Bernie only ever could show people information internally because...
Right. Yeah,
and so this auditor said, can I have your SEC number and I'll go into the SEC website and just double check that all the trades you said you've done are
just
there.
Have a look. Yeah.
And Bernie knows if that guy takes his SEC number and goes to the SEC website, there won't be any trades listed there, because Bernie hasn't made any actual trades since like the 70s. Like there'd be nothing there. Like there'll be no activity there. But like there's no reason for Bernie to not give this agent the SEC number, because it's just such a standard thing to check. So not giving it to him would look really dodgy. So Bernie said he gave him his SEC number and he went home and just thought, I'm fucked. Like I'm going to be arrested by morning. He's going to go and look and he's going to see nothing. But it turns out the auditor called the SEC, confirmed, is this the Madoff SEC number? And they went, yep. And then he went, thanks, and just didn't check anything.
Oh, wow.
Like if he had just gone.
Insane.
And what trades are listed there? They would have gone, none. But
Has he done any business? What year was this?
That was like in the mid-2000s.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's just balls were getting dropped all the time. And then like there's another example. It's actually a scene that they do really well in. There's been a couple of like dramas based on the Bernie Madoff story, and there's one where Hank Azaria plays Frank DiPasquale.
Oh, right.
And there's this really funny scene where they depict this moment. So these agents come in to do random checks of the office, and they ask to see the last like 5 years worth of statements or something. And Bernie's kind of like, absolutely, I will get someone to get those out of storage for you. And so he immediately calls down to Frank on the secret level, and he's like, shit, quick, you've got to make some false statements for like the last 5 years. And so they start doing that downstairs, and then they print them out, and then Frank realizes, oh my God, like shit, these are meant to be 5 years old and they're really warm from the printer. So then they're like shoving them in the fridge in like the office kitchen, like trying to cool down all the paper. And then they come and he's like, oh, they look too pristine. So then they're kind of like chucking them around, trying to make them look scuffed. Like they've, you know, he's been digging through storage, trying to find these documents from 5 years ago. Like it's just all like dodgy like that. And that's a real like scenario that happened, and they took it up and the agents just don't question it. They're like, yep, thanks for these.
My God. A floor in New York as well. Imagine that happening.
I know.
Like just how like it is so primitive. Like it feels like a kid's game, like running around trying to trick people.
And Hank Azaria is so good in that role. Like he's just like just pulling off all this dodgy stuff, printing off all this fake shit, just making up fake numbers. It's like it makes me wish I was smart enough to be like a hacker. It makes me wish I was smart enough to pull off like a really cool scam. I'm just not smart enough, you know?
But you could. This does not feel like it's that smart.
I mean, I
guess. You could do this.
Yeah, maybe I'm also too scared, but like.
Yeah. I mean, don't do it is my advice. Don't do it.
Yeah, but I mean.
But if you wanted to, Rosie, I believe in you. You could.
But I mean, you know, to be fair to the agents though, like this sort of lack of regulation and balls getting dropped, that was a huge reason they didn't get caught for so long. But to be fair to the agents, like Bernie was considered a lion of the industry. Like at one point he was chair of the NASDAQ. Like an auditor in there, why would he think, oh, I need to check the SEC number of the guy who was chair of the NASDAQ? Like you wouldn't.
A big fish.
It'd be like going to like Anthony Albanese and going, I need to double check your Australian passport. Like you just wouldn't even
Yeah, your tax file number, please.
think you need to check it really? Like
no.
So regulators dropping the ball was one reason it went on so long. Another reason, and Bernie really fixated on this later, was people's greed. So people kept investing because the returns were so high. And nobody wanted to question it at all because the returns were so high. And like regular people, this doesn't really apply to them because they probably wouldn't have suspected anything. They didn't really understand. Yeah. But it is widely accepted that some of Bernie's major clients had to absolutely know that what he was doing was dodgy and that it was a Ponzi scheme. But as long as they were getting their returns when they asked, they didn't care where the money was coming from. And there are reports as well that some of his biggest clients actually pressured him to keep going when he kind of like intimated that he might be thinking of like wrapping up the fund. They wanted him to keep going because as long as he kept bringing in new clients and they kept getting their big returns, they were like, we're looking the other way and we'll tell unless you keep going. So he kind of like insinuated later there was pressure on him to keep going and people knew, but I mean, you know, who knows?
What a stressful life, just living in that, like going home on that first day when you're thinking you're going to get done with the number, like at that first thing. You just turn yourself in, wouldn't you? At that point?
I mean, they do say that when he finally gets arrested, he seems relieved. So I mean, no Ponzi scheme can last forever, even with the pressure on him to keep it going. Like eventually you're not going to have enough new people putting money in or enough of your existing clients putting more money in, and someone's going to ask or a lot of people are going to ask for a certain amount of their cash to take out that you don't have enough to cover. And I mean, Bernie was lying so much about how much money he had made for people that so much more money had gone out than had come in. It had been going for like 30, 40 years by the time it was like done. So
that's insane.
If everybody wanted to get their money out at the same time, he absolutely would not have had it. But even if one of his bigger clients, even if one of them wanted to get their money out when he wasn't expecting it, he also wouldn't have it. And this is why it's sort of widely accepted that a few of the bigger clients knew, because they would have to give, like if they gave him notice for a big amount that they wanted, he would take the time to get it for them.
Yeah.
And that's not a usual like practice. If you ask for your money, it should be there, you should get it. So they're like, you were comfortable waiting for him to get it because you knew he's stealing it from someone else to get it for you.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, if even one of his clients wanted to get money when he, wasn't expecting it, he wouldn't have it. So if someone like sort of came to him and said, oh, you've told me there's $2 billion that you've made for me, I need to get my $2 billion, he wouldn't have that to give to them. Like he had enough to pay the smaller amounts when people asked, as long as more and more people kept giving him money. But the whole Ponzi scheme relied on people keeping their money with him, particularly the bigger clients, because if too many people wanted to cash out, he wouldn't have it. But I mean, that rarely happened anyway, because people just kept getting their little statements, saw their money was growing, and they didn't want to take it out anyway. But then, you mentioned it before, the 2008 financial crisis happened.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars disappears from the stock market. Everybody panicked, and lots of people wanted to get their money out of the stock market before the stocks lost so much value that their money like completely disappeared.
Yeah.
A lot of Bernie's clients didn't just want to cash out, like they needed to cash out. Like they'd been hit really hard, and the only money they sort of had left was the money they had invested with Bernie. So they were like, I need my money.
They had all these statements.
Yeah, and there were big companies as well who wanted lots of money. And so essentially, this was Bernie's worst nightmare. A lot of people came to him all at once asking to cash out a lot of their money, and he didn't have it. And he'd gotten through this before. Like there was a stock market crash in 1989, and a lot of people had come to him asking to cash out. And he's such a good salesman and talker that he convinced so many people, keep it in, it'll grow. Like taking it out now is stupid. Like he managed to talk his way around it in 1989, but this time nobody wanted to wait. And so this is the first time since he started the Ponzi scheme that he just didn't have enough money to give to all these clients who were asking for it. He just did not have it. And that's when he realized he was really fucked.
Wow.
And he kind of spent a week trying to figure out what to do, trying to go to other big clients, asking them, oh, I've got this big opportunity. Can you invest this or that? Whatever.
Right.
Like he tried, but he just wasn't getting anywhere. And then in a statement to the FBI later, Frank DePascali described the moment Bernie finally admitted to him what was happening. So the statement says, DePascali went upstairs and was looking at Madoff in his office, just staring at his computer screen like he was comatose. DePascali had noticed that Madoff was under tremendous stress for the past few weeks. DePascali went into Madoff's office eventually, and Madoff finally said, I'm at the end of my rope. DePascali did not know what he meant. Madoff said, I don't have any money. And DePascali could not believe what he was hearing. Even though DePascali had long ago realized the trades were not real, he still believed and had been convinced by Madoff that the money existed somewhere. Madoff was telling him now there was no money. DePascali was frantic. Madoff seemed at peace with it by this time, but DePascali kept yelling at him, not believing what was happening. Madoff told him he was making a scene and that he should calm down.
Oh my God. Do you think that's true? Like in terms of like having someone throw papers in a fridge and be scuffling around?
No, I think Frank knew.
He knew a bit. Yeah.
I think pretty much everyone knew who's closely connected to it. But I mean, I think Frank DePascali sung like a canary when he got arrested. He just told them everything they wanted to know. But he was also, but everybody would kind of talk, but always had a caveat like, oh, but I only found out blah. Or he
Yeah.
told me that like Frank kind of said, I knew we were faking all these things, but it's just because he told me the stock market was really volatile and sometimes you don't have the money on hand, but it is there. And it's like, yeah, okay, mate. Okay.
I thought we were doing it for fun. I thought we
you're
were just
smarter than
pranking
that,
them.
bro.
Yeah.
So on December 10, 2008, it's the Madoff Investments Christmas party. So everyone's there having a good time. Nothing out of the ordinary. And at the end of the night, Bernie asks his sons, Mark and Andrew, to come back to his place with Ruth. And it's there that Bernie confesses to them that the entire investment firm is a Ponzi scheme and that it has now collapsed and there's not enough money on hand to pay investors. And he asks Mark and Andrew to give him
for $100 billion.
Yeah, to give him a few days to get his ducks in a row because he wants to transfer whatever money is left to the people who he thinks deserve it, like to like family. He wants to give all the staff their Christmas bonuses, stuff like that. Mark and Andrew have always insisted they had no idea. They're apparently completely shocked when their father tells them this and they ignore his request to give him more time. They immediately leave the apartment, call their lawyers, and their lawyers tell them you have to go to the police right now. His sons never talk to him again. And they refuse to even talk to their mother, Ruth, until she agrees to cut Bernie off. So they talk to the FBI that night and Bernie is arrested the next morning. The FBI raid his house. And he doesn't really fight it. Like,
he's seen it coming for a long time. That's decades.
He's seen it coming for a while. He sort of doesn't say much and his lawyer gets him out on bail. And he's home for a couple of weeks with Ruth. They even, she says later in an interview, decide to try and take their own lives one night and they take a whole bunch of tablets together, but then they wake up and they were like, oh, okay. Like, so, you know, he's trying to get out of it. But then when he does finally talk to the FBI, within like 30 seconds, he confesses that, quote, the whole thing was one big lie.
Wow.
And he then explains to the FBI how he managed to pull it all off for so long. He tells them about the secret floor, the falsifying of all the documents, the fridge, his, you know, insistence that it all just started innocently enough because he was trying to cover losing some money and then it just got out of control. And the investigators said, like, the interviews were really interesting because he seemed really relieved to finally be able to talk about it, almost like he was proud of a lot of it and he finally got to sort of show off a bit.
Tell someone about it. Wow.
Yeah.
Show and tell time.
But, you know, I think also I can't imagine carrying that stress and that burden for...
You'd be waiting for that tap on your shoulder at any point. I feel like you just wait and everything would be over really quickly.
Yeah, like everything. I mean, the one thing he did insist in the interviews was, like, he kind of took all the blame for himself. He insisted that his sons, Mark and Andrew, had no idea about any of it. You know, they were on their floor doing their little trades. He insisted his wife, Ruth, knew nothing about it. He basically pretty much only implicated Frank and his brother, who did all the computer stuff.
The computer game.
But other than that, he was like, I did it all. Bernie's arrest was like a huge news story because even though he acted like it was super exclusive and he hardly took anyone on, like 90% of New York's rich people had money invested with him. Like, so many people. I mean, probably one of the most famous examples was Kevin Bacon and his wife, what's her name? Kira Sedgwick.
Yes.
They had money invested with him. Like, so many people had money invested with him. So when he was arrested, it was this huge story and there were people who just saw it on the news and they were like, wait, what? Like, what? And so a lot of people all go to want to cash out their money straight away and they can't because of the money that was left. The FBI had frozen it. So, like, people literally started storming the office building trying to get in, being like, where's our money? And this really did wipe people out. Like, so there were the massively rich investors, bigger companies and all of that. But there were also like rich individuals, like, and some of them lost everything or at least huge amounts. But But then there's also the regular people, like we were talking about the superannuation thing. Like, so there were quite a few superannuation companies who had invested with Bernie to try and grow people's super, all wiped out. And it's like, you have no idea that, and you suddenly get a phone call saying, sorry, you have no superannuation anymore. There were like major charities that had invested their money with him. This is where people are like, he's a psycho.
Sad.
Like, he would convince major charities, like, oh, invest your money with me, I'll grow it for you, like, so you can do more good. And he just, lost it all. So
He's
wasn't
preying on innocent people.
Yes. Like, and like I said, it's like the receptionist's parents who, had a little bit of retirement money, or someone else in the, like, he would take $20 if you gave it to him, and he would tell you he could invest it. Like, so it wasn't just the richest of rich people. Like, this wasn't just people losing, going from 100 million net worth to 50 million. Like, there were people literally left with no money. Like, some people who were at a point in their life where they needed to live off their superannuation and then they had none. So there were people who ended up homeless. There were suicides. Like, it was really awful. And by all accounts, Bernie didn't really seem to care. Like, he was interviewed extensively in prison by a journalist called Richard Behar. He investigated this for ages and was actually pretty much one of the only journalists that Bernie talked to. And he had a book published in 2024 called Madoff, The Final Word, where he just like has all of these interviews he did with him over the years in there. And Richard Behar said in a lot of those interviews actually, like, Bernie kind of brushed off the people who were upset with him, and he also brushed off the idea that any of the people affected by the Ponzi scheme were victims. He had this attitude of these people were just greedy. Like, this went on so long because everyone was getting all this money. Everyone liked how much money they were getting in return. Like, his kind of attitude is people, the returns were so good, people had to have known. Like, I'm sorry. Like, nobody can say they're a victim now when, they loved it when all the money was coming in. So, like,
just
he
victim blaming.
Yeah, apparently, like, he just had a very scary level of, like, not only just no remorse about it, but blaming the victims for the reason. Like, he's like, I only did it because you wanted more. You guys were greedy and I was just trying to facilitate your greediness, kind of thing.
Wow.
So in 2009, Bernie Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison. Ruth divorced him and refused contact with him because she didn't want to be cut off from her sons and grandchildren. His sons wouldn't talk to him. His brother was sent to a different prison. He was sentenced to 10 years. Frank DePascali told the FBI everything he knew, like, so much of what we know about, like, the logistics of that secret floor come from Frank DePascali.
Wow. And
he kind of told them everything because he was, like, he had lung cancer and he wanted to stay out of prison until he died. So he did. He died in 2015. And that left Bernie kind of essentially completely alone, like, except for a couple of the journalists he talked to over the years. He died in prison in 2021, aged 82, just of, like, kind of being old. He had heart problems, kidney problems, a whole bunch of stuff. His sons, Mark and Andrew, were investigated. They vehemently maintained their innocence. A lot of investigators maintain, we didn't have enough to prove that they actively knew, but at the very least they were willfully ignorant.
Yes.
They were ostracized from society though, and Mark was unable to handle that. A couple years after Bernie's arrest, Mark took his own life.
Oh,
and
wow.
a couple years after Mark died, Andrew died of cancer.
Oh.
So that left Ruth, like, the only surviving family member of their immediate family, and she too was ostracized from elite society.
Wow.
And, by all accounts, did not know how to function without that much money. Like, she had been with Bernie since she was 15 and they had been outrageously wealthy pretty much the entire time. she was like in her 60s when he was arrested. Kate Blanchett's character in Blue Jasmine is apparently inspired by her.
Great film.
Just this rich lady who loses everything and doesn't know how to be a person
Wow.
in the real world.
Wow. It's like in the latest season of White Lotus, you know, when she says,
family,
I could not live without heaps of money. I wouldn't want to live in a world where I don't have heaps of money.
Yeah. She also maintains that she knew nothing, and there was, you know, a huge sort of uproar amongst victims because I think there was a certain amount of money frozen, and a sort of overseer of that money was in charge of distributing it to everyone who'd been, you know, defrauded or whatever. And she eventually got given $2 million, and people were really angry about that. But other people were like, if she wasn't part of it, like, and she's old, and what is she going to do? Like, $2 million bucks isn't a lot. She went to live with her sister and her sister's husband, who, by the way, had both lost money with Bernie.
Oh, my God.
Her sister took her in. Ruth did an interview on 60 Minutes in 2011 in which she, like, denied knowing anything. She apparently now lives in an assisted, like, living facility, essentially a nursing home. She'd be 85 this year. And people,
Happy
a lot
birthday,
of people,
Ruth.
Happy birthday,
If
Ruth.
you didn't have anything to do with it, happy birthday, Ruth.
I mean, a lot of people have felt very sorry for her. Like, a lot of people have said, you know, her sons are dead. Her husband is now dead.
Yeah.
She was just like an ignorant housewife who, yes, was living like she lived in the Capitol in the Hunger Games, but she had no idea, and then everything fell apart. And so a lot of people have felt like she was also a victim in all of this. I mean, not the worst one, but still one. But then when Madoff, The Final Word, that book I mentioned, came out in 2024, Richard Behar presented a lot of evidence that Ruth was way more involved than she had said. He also presented evidence that the sons were too. So Ruth had actually, when she went to university, trained as a bookkeeper. So she knew.
Trained in Ponzi schemes.
Yeah, trained in Ponzi schemes. Yeah.
She did a semester one. Yep.
Like, I don't know why they didn't think that was, you know, sus.
A bit fishy. Yeah.
She trained as a bookkeeper. And so she, for the first few years of the company back in the 60s, managed all the bookkeeping.
She was cooking the books.
She insisted in her 60 Minutes interview, for the first few years I did do the books, but then we had our first child and I, you know, left to be a stay-at-home mum, and I've been a stay-at-home mother ever since. Like, I don't have any part of it.
Yeah.
I pay the family's bills. Like, I manage the household finances. I have nothing to do with the company. But prosecutors and the FBI knew differently, and in their investigations, they actually nicknamed her Ruthie Books because she had so much to do with, like, the books of the investment company. So this is
such a childish name to throw out at someone.
Ruthie Books. I know.
Oh, Ruthie Books.
This is from the book Madoff, The Final Word. It says, as with every Ponzi scheme, Bernie Madoff lured in new money by pointing to the mammoth gains being pocketed by those who had already invested. But keeping your customers satisfied, even as you swindle them year after year, requires more managerial acumen than you might think. Financial records with Ruth's handwriting on them and testimony from former employees reveal that Ruth did plenty of work to maintain some of the critical Ponzi bank accounts for decades after the 1960s and right up until 2008, the year the bubble busted. I remember thinking as I was watching the show, oh my God, she's on 60 Minutes lying about her role in the company, exclaims former prosecutor Lisa Baroni, who oversaw several years of investigations on the Madoff family and employee cases. What she said was untrue.
I'm taking my happy birthday back, Ruth.
I know, take it back.
Ruth. Sorry, Ruthie Books.
So nobody gave Ruthie Books' TV claim a second thought at the time, but the feds knew the truth as early as 2009 thanks to information from Frank T. Biscali, one of Madoff's top lieutenants and the feds' principal informant. When asked about Ruth's work with the Madoff investment company, Frank understood that her role was the person who reconciled the Chase 703, and the Chase 703 was that one bank account that everything went in and out of. And so it says here from the book, between 1986 and 2008 alone, the Chase 703 account received deposits and transfers of about $150 billion, almost all of it from investors. Frank DeBascali said that she was really involved. She reconciled that account, but she pulled back in the few months before the whole thing collapsed. So it kind of indicates that they all knew it was coming earlier.
And she was pretty involved. She was pretty involved
Frank
up until
also
that
said, I love this one. Frank also said of the boys, he's like, oh, they knew. And he said, it says here, DeBascali also emphasized to the FBI that his discussions with Bernie about the day-to-day mechanics of maintaining the Ponzi were often conducted in front of Andrew, Peter, and Mark, that's the brother, and almost anyone else at the Madoff investment firm. No topics were off limits. No coded language was used. As DeBascali recalled, if he told Madoff he was having trouble making the desired fake profits for clients, Bernie would respond, well, go back and look at yesterday's opening and use that. Then he'd turn to Andrew and ask, oh, what did the market do yesterday? Anybody with trading experience knew he was talking about picking stocks after the fact and using those prices as the basis for fraudulent trades.
Wow. So, oh, my God.
That's
fascinating. That little canary is singing.
Whether or not Ruth knew or the boys knew or whether or not Frank DeBascali was making that up, it kind of all doesn't really matter now because
and he was also dying at the time. So,
The boys are dead. Frank DeBascali's dead. Ruth is 85 and in a nursing home. Like, the money eventually did all get dispersed.
Yeah.
Nobody got anything anywhere near what they were owed. And the boys, they fought having to give any of their money over because they walked away millionaires. Like, they had millions and millions of dollars. They, fought really hard against having to contribute to, paying anybody back. I think eventually they settled some deal. They paid, $20 million or something.
My God.
So, whether they insisted they were innocent, but they still didn't think that, they didn't think they should be responsible for paying anybody back. So,
Wow. Oh,
but I just think, it's they're all gone. And I think when it comes to Bernie, it's was it worth it, bro? Was it worth it?
Was it all worth it? I can't imagine.
You lived as a billionaire for all this time and you
got
would
away
have
with
just
it for
felt so much
decades.
pressure and anxiety every day. And then what do you do it for? Your family? Because one of your sons killed himself. The other one dies of cancer. Your wife stops talking to you. You end up dying in prison, essentially by yourself. The only visitors you have are journalists. Was it worth it?
If Bernie was still alive, Carl Stefanovic would have him on his new podcast
he
to
totally
actually
would have
talk through the scams and everything. It doesn't seem worth it at all.
I don't think
it seems nuts.
I don't think it seems worth it. I've been prepping an episode about the Murdochs and, they've recently had this big blow up where a bunch of the kids feel ripped off by their dad and essentially he's in his 90s and only one of his kids is talking to him. Everyone's cut him off and it's what are your values that when you get to the end of your life, you're I have more money than God, but none of my kids are talking to me.
It's a real succession. It's wild.
What I found quite striking with Bernie was after his death in 2021, his sons were both long dead. His brother was still around. His wife was still around, although not divorced him, not talking to him. But after his death in 2021, nobody claimed his remains.
Wow.
And as of 2023, that's the last confirmation I could find. So I'm assuming it's still the same now. As of 2023, his ashes are just located in a box at his lawyer's office.
Wow. That is so sad. I know he did terrible things, but that is very sad not to have.
It does just make you go, was
claimed.
it worth it?
Was that worth it? We could go and get them, Rosie, if you want.
I don't know. I've got my
Just in a
mum's in a Tupperware container on a shelf in my
true.
room. I don't even know what to do with hers.
Yeah.
It's hard to know what to do with them. It's very strange.
Yeah,
it's a strange
I know.
thing having ashes. But yeah, like I just think, yeah, you had all this money, but you know, you got together when you were 20 and Ruth was 15 and you were both lifeguards at the beach. Like you could have just
lived a pretty good life.
You could have just made, you know, 50 grand a year and or the equivalent that you can live off and been lifeguards and I don't know.
Or you could have actually been a good stockbroker.
Oh, yeah.
You could have actually just committed to what you actually do.
You could have actually been a good or just like a regular stockbroker who had just millions of dollars instead of hundreds of millions. And instead you do this and you end up all alone, and when you die, no one claims your body and your ashes just sit in your lawyer's office.
Well, as of 2023, we don't know what's going to happen in 2026 when you and I do a trip to New York and go and get the ashes.
Oh, my God. Could this be another ironic item for the studio?
It could be.
Bernie Madoff's ashes.
Bernie Madoff's ashes.
Let's get them on the shelf next to Brooklyn Beckham's photography book.
Oh, your wickedly talented framed behind you. I think we absolutely need to get the ashes.
Oh, my God.
Your mum and Bernie sitting next together, a fellow traveller.
Oh, my God. She'd actually quite like that. Any proximity to someone mildly famous.
But Madoff is – yeah, sorry. When you said Murdoch originally as well, I was thinking of the Murdoch is it Murdoch family murders?
Oh, yeah, the redheads.
The redheads who are also called Murdoch.
We have established that it is Murdoch. I thought it was much funner when it was the Murder murders. Yeah, it does look like that, but it's pronounced Murdoch for some reason. But the Bernie Madoff one is so interesting. I still need to do an episode on them too, but I sort of thought I'd wait because the trial. I want to wait
more
for
going.
The new trial. But yeah,
That's
that was just the gist of Bernie Madoff.
Oh, my God. And you and I are tired because we just came back from Taylor Swift's wedding last night. But you and I are now – we're full in New York now. You and I travel there many times a year. Next time for the Ashes. But I am so – I knew a little bit about that, and I remember watching the documentary because the secret floor really came back to me.
Yeah. You've got to watch the
so nuts.
I can't – because there's a movie and a mini-series, and I can't remember which is which, but the one called The Wizard of Lies, and it has Robert De Niro plays Bernie.
Oh, wow.
And Hank Azaria plays Frank DiPasquale. That's the one where like they're down in the secret floor chucking stuff in the fridge, and that one is so good.
Hank Azaria as well. I know he's very well paid as a person, being on The Simpsons for so long, but he is a very underrated comic actor.
Yeah.
Maybe he just doesn't want to do it, but he is so funny.
I saw this TikTok video going around recently where someone was just throwing names of his characters at him, and he was doing the voice of each one, like just like this, bam. But they were like, you know, this guy, and he could just – it's amazing. He's
incredible.
So good.
And he doesn't do a poo anymore. He stopped doing a poo.
No, he did.
Remember, he did. It is, and he did say that was wrong in the end. I think he actually
did
come out and say that. But I just think he's so good. And I will say why I laughed during when you're talking about Kevin Bacon. You got to follow his TikTok if you don't already.
Oh, really? Why?
He is so funny. He's just a little bit ludicrous, and I quite like him. He's just always doing something a bit zany and weird, and him and his wife are on there together. It's just so funny.
I think you can tell from because
Cliff Richard as well.
There was like one episode in Will and Grace where Kevin Bacon played himself. Have you seen that episode?
Oh, right. No, I haven't seen that, no.
And because Jack, the character, is obsessed with him and is stalking him. Yeah, and so Kevin Bacon is in this episode, and he is he makes so much fun of himself. You can tell by how people do that, like whether they're going to be cool or not. And I always thought from that episode, he seems really cool.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that so much. Like, it was even like, you know, listening to you I was listening today to you guys talking about Michael J. Fox and, you know,
you mean Matthew?
Matthew, as you call him sometimes, very occasionally, Matthew J. Fox. And it is so interesting to look into that time of show business as well, like Family Ties and everything. And with Kevin Bacon, he's just one of those people that he seems to be doing really good still.
Yeah.
And like, you know, Gary Busey's not doing so well. Like there's so many stars that have really fallen off. But Kevin Bacon, even though he's not doing heaps of stuff anymore, He's just fun. I just like the guy.
I love that the name you reached for there was Gary Busey.
I know. I got a bit worried because I have also I follow his social media as well.
Whether you're doing well as a celebrity is have you ended up Kevin Bacon or have you ended up Gary Busey?
Gary
Those are
Busey,
the two options.
Yeah, that's right. I also want you to do an episode on Amanda Bynes. I do want you to do an episode on Amanda Bynes because
so
I want to get just the gist of Amanda. But I know. She
is, though, going through the process of de-tattooing her eyebrows, and I must say it's looking much better.
That's good. Good for her. She's
good
baby
for her.
Steps.
Baby
steps, baby girl.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much, and tune in next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Just the Gist, a Just the Network production. Executive produced and hosted by me, Rosie Waterland. Produced and edited by James Joseph with additional production support from JTG team Kate Lieber and Hayley Stavely and Acast legends Guy Scott Wilson and Simon McDermott. Looking for breaking news? It drops on the Just the Gist Patreon every Tuesday, along with a whole lot of other bonus audio, video, and behind-the-scenes content, which you can access for just $1, $1 a week by clicking the link in the show notes or searching Just the Gist Podcast on Patreon. Follow Just the Gist on Instagram and TikTok at Just the Gist Podcast and watch the video version of every episode on our YouTube channel, also at, funnily enough, Just the Gist Podcast. Follow Rosie, that's me, in all of the places at Rosie Waterland. Want to give us a suggestion? Tell Rosie to stop singing so much? Email us at hello@justthegist.com.au. Thank you, as always, for listening. Now go say something impressive at a dinner party. Bye.